Somewhere in the quiet stretch between a backyard wall and a narrow walking path, a forgotten fence has learned how to smile. Each morning, it greets the sun not with wooden silence, but with a chorus of painted expressions. Bottles once bound for the trash heap now hang in neat rows, transformed into hydroponic planters with wide eyes, squiggle mouths, and the occasional shy smirk. They laugh with basil hair, blink behind mint leaves, and cradle spring lettuce like a green secret between friends. The idea began with a single bottle, drawn by a child hand, just eyes and a toothy grin. Her grandmother added another, then a neighbor. Before long, the fence became a neighborhood gallery of recycled joy. What makes this setup beautiful isn't just the cleverness, it's the realness, the uneven brushstrokes, the way rainwater trickles from one smiling face to the next. The fact that each bottle was chosen not for perfection, but because it was already there, used, imperfect, and entirely ready for a second life. Behind every bottle is a small DIY truth. You don't need a greenhouse or power tools. Just twine, soil, paint, and a little bit of wonder. It's the kind of garden where herbs grow sideways. Kids name their planters. And nobody minds if the smiles fade a bit with time. Because the joy of it, the warmth, the humor, the hope, is already rooted in the wall. And every time someone walks past, they can't help but smile back. In the far corner of a small garden, where the stones are cracked and moss creeps between the tiles, something delightful slithers into view. A dragon, not fierce or fire-breathing, but green, grounded, and full of life. Born from bottle scraps and leftover garden twine, this creature stretches across a humble wooden bench, like it has a story to tell. Its back is a chain of reused plastic bottles, each one carefully painted in earthy tones that fade into one another like scales in the sun. There's something oddly noble about it. The way the bottles curve, the gentle tilt of its smiling head, its bottle cap eyes filled with mischief. It's not just sculpture, of course. This is a hydroponic planter, too. Leafy greens burst from each segment, as if the dragon is sprouting its own living armor. Lettuce, mustard, young kale. You can tell it was made slowly, piece by piece. Someone gave it rope feet. Someone braided its antennae. Someone loved the idea enough to keep adding until it fell whole. The dragon doesn't roar. It teaches. It shows children that waste can walk again, that plastic can crawl with purpose. It brings fantasy to vegetable growing, practicality to play. It's just silly enough to be brilliant, and just useful enough to grow your dinner. And when a breeze stirs its leafy mane or the rain paints its back with shine, it almost looks like it might slink forward, taking its slow green march across the garden path. That's the magic of it. A little whimsy, a lot of heart, and a trail of bottles no one will ever see the same again. At first glance, they look like visitors from another world, hovering just above the soil, softly pulsing with color. But look closer and you'll see their roots. These strange little crafts aren't alien technology. They're everyday plastic bottles, reborn with light and life. Each glowing UFO was once waste. Clear soda containers, jar lids, forgotten caps. Now, under careful hands and a bit of curiosity, they become tiny hydroponic capsules, each holding a seedling of basil, oregano, or rainbow chard. As daylight fades, the glow begins, a green here, a violet there, making the garden come alive with light that doesn't disturb, only soothes. There's something deeply comforting about them. They don't shout for attention. They shimmer quietly, like floating stars on the earth. Children think they've landed from the sky. Adults smile at the clever reuse. Neighbors peek over fences and wonder if there's solar-powered magic. But the truth is simple. A reused bottle, a small waterproof LED, a bit of hydroponic mix. No bigger investment than a walk to your recycling bin and an evening spent crafting with gentle hands. And that's the beauty of these glowing planters. Not just a light, but the idea that your garden can be part science, part storybook. That you don't need expensive materials or electricity to create wonder. Just a little imagination and the willingness to see magic where others see trash. At night, they shine. By morning, they grow. And somewhere in between, they remind you, small things, done with care, still have the power to glow. In a quiet corner near the kitchen window, a little village comes to life. Not a stone, or wood, but a bottle was once tossed aside and forgotten. Each bottle now stands proudly, transformed into a miniature home. Some have painted brick facades. Others wear pastel roofs or crooked little chimneys. There are windows with tiny curtains, doorways sketched with a child's steady hand, and even imagined flower boxes. But what sets this village apart is what grows from it. Herbs rising like trees from their rooftops, green onion forests, parsley canopies, basil bushy as hedges. It feels like a storybook scene, something you might stumble across in a dream or a memory. This garden didn't begin with a plan. It began with a spare moment, a bottle saved after lunch, a child curious with a brush. It grew, one home at a time, each crafted with its own quirks and warmth. And as the herbs grew taller, so did the sense of magic. But beneath the whimsy is purpose. These bottles are hydroponic vessels, nourishing plants with care and simplicity. No soil spills, no large space needed, just water, light, and a place on a shelf. They're practical, yes, but more than that, they're meaningful. A way to bring green into the smallest homes. A quiet encouragement to reuse, to reimagine. A moment of calm in the form of a bottle wearing a roof. And when the herbs are snipped for dinner or the window opens and the leaves rustle like trees in a toy town, you remember, gardens don't need to be big. They just need to be made with heart. Tucked beneath a canopy of herbs and blossoms, they wait, silent watchers of the garden. Fairy spirits, born from what the world threw away. Plastic bottles once empty, now alive with color and care. Each one tells a different story. A twist of painted wings, some sheer and shimmering. Eyes drawn with quiet kindness. Their bodies, slender bottles, softly adorned with petals, beads, or scraps of ribbon, whatever was found. At their crowns, green life spills upward. Mint, lemongrass, dill, as if thoughts of the garden itself bloom from their minds. They stand among the vegetables like gentle protectors, sometimes in a cluster beneath the basil, sometimes alone by a tomato vine. And in the hush of dusk, when shadows stretch and the world slows down, they almost seem to move. A breeze catches a wing. A leaf flutters beside a painted smile. The illusion is tender, believable. This project began not from a need, but from a moment of wonder. Could something as common as a bottle hold a bit of magic? The answer, of course, is yes, when seen through gentle hands and a hopeful heart. These fairy planters are more than decoration. They teach that care is an art, that sustainability can feel like play, that even the smallest act, painting a wing, planting a sprout, can become a ritual of healing. They don't speak, but they remind you every day nature needs guardians, even if they're made of plastic and paint and held together by kindness. And in their quiet way, they enchant. They don't buzz like the real ones do, but they dance all the same, swaying from tree branches and porch beams, their painted wings catching the light, their striped bellies plump with sprouting green. The bottle bees have arrived. Each one, born from a bottle saved from the bin, now carries a little life on its back. Basil, mint, even tiny lettuce leaves reach out from their tops, as though the bees themselves are growing gardens wherever they land. Their wings shimmer, made from clear wrappers or old folders cut with care. Their eyes, googly or drawn, are wide with joy. They hang in the air like pollinators of hope. This DIY garden didn't start as a grand plan. It began with a weekend, a yellow marker, and a single child asking if bees could grow plants. And so they did, not just in function, but in form. Flying gardens strung above the earth, reminding us of the pollinators we depend on and the materials we too often discard. They're light, easy to hang, simple to make. But somehow, when you see them all together, dozens swaying the wind, they feel like a festival, a celebration of reuse, color, life. Neighbors smile, children wave, and the garden becomes not just a space for food, but for feeling joy, whimsy, connection. These bees may never make honey, but they've already sweetened the air with laughter and filled the space below with herbs that feed both body and soul. Not everything that flies needs wings. Sometimes it just needs a second chance. It rests quietly by the garden's edge, like it wandered in from a picture book and decided to stay. A caterpillar, Not soft and squishy, but pieced together from painted plastic bottles, each one holding its own patch of green. The caterpillar is humble in its creation. Bottles join end to end, painted in tones of leaf and bark. Rope legs dangle from beneath, giving it movement even when still. Its face, the lead bottle, is full of charm. Large eyes, a curved smile, and antennae made from old twine. But the magic isn't in the decoration. It's in what it grows. From every segment, a garden rises. Mint, kale, spinach. The creature becomes a chain of life, slowly unfurling across a bench or nestled beside flower beds. It's gardening as sculpture, recycling as play. And yet, the practicality remains. These bottles hold water and root systems with surprising ease, forming a self-contained hydroponic train of freshness. Children are drawn to it. They crouch to peek beneath, asking where its tail ends or what it eats. Grown-ups pause, smiling softly, remembering their own simper days of bugs and jars and days spent barefoot in grass. The caterpillar doesn't move, but it teaches that gardens can be joyful, that trash can become treasure, that imagination has weight, and in this case, roots. And as the sun shifts and a breeze stirs the leaves atop its back, it almost looks like it might wiggle forward, off to grow something new just around the corner. In a world chasing fast, this caterpillar reminds us, beauty crawls in slow, unexpected ways. They sway gently in the breeze like ornaments of joy, their faces tilted upward in quiet amusement. Hung from an old tree branch with rope and care, these bottles, once forgotten, now grin at the sun and laugh with the wind. Each one has its own personality. One blushes pink with a bashful smile. Another beams wide with yellow cheeks and crooked teeth. A sleepy one, painted pale green, has long lashes and closed lids. And from every colorful crown, herbs burst, wild basil, dill, oregano, like whimsical hairstyles in motion. There's no symmetry to their placement. They were never meant to match. That's the charm. This project didn't need much. Just a handful of old bottles, leftover acrylic paint, some string, and a branch that asked to be noticed. It began on a slow afternoon with a paintbrush in hand, and no hurry to finish. A child painted the first face. The rest came like laughter, spontaneous and genuine. Now they hang not just as planters, but as presents. They greet every visitor. They invite the birds. They catch the rain. And they ask nothing but to be smiled back at. The herbs they grow aren't fancy. They don't need to be. What they offer is companionship, not just utility. You water them, and they thank you with green. You look up, and they meet your gaze with eyes of your own making. It's a garden of faces, yes, but also of feelings. A quiet testimony that beauty can dangle lightly from a branch, held up by rope and a bit of whimsy. And when the wind picks up, they sway together, not alone, but laughing like old friends in the trees, on a humble shelf, against the warmth of a garden wall. The first chapters of a harvest quietly unfold. There, among the scratches and sun-faded wood, clear plastic bottles, cut, inverted, and gently rested in their own bases, hold something precious. Beginnings. Tiny seedlings push through dark soil, stretching toward the light. Their roots dangle in water or rest in moist cotton. Each bottle is topped with a brightly colored cap, red, green, blue, like little hats for baby plants. Some are vented, others gently rest ajar. All seem to glow with purpose. This is not a grand greenhouse. It's simpler than that, but somehow it feels sacred. The nursery wall was made with care, not cost. A pallet board, a drill, a few nails, and time. The clear walls of each bottle reveal every detail. The condensation, the root hairs, the first split in a seed shell. It's a garden of transparency, both literal and emotional. There's something grounding about tending it. You check the water, adjust the caps, whisper encouragement, maybe, without realizing. It becomes more than a garden. It becomes a ritual, perfect for a balcony, a school wall, or a kitchen with only an hour of sun. This DIY setup reminds us, the beginning of growth doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be seen. And those bottle caps, so often tossed aside, are now protectors. They shelter, they shade, they symbolize a second chance. Because even in the smallest corners, even inside discarded plastic, life finds a way to rise. And when it does, it's nothing short of a quiet miracle, watched over by a rainbow of caps, one sprout at a time. Some gardens bloom with flowers, others hum with bees. But this one laughs quietly with frogs, plastic green and impossibly full of charm. Lined up near the stepping stones or tucked beneath a leafy tree, these frog-head planters peer out at the world with googly eyes and painted grins. Their bright green bodies were once soda bottles. Their smiles, born from the curve of a brush, the joy of a child imagination, or the slow, meditative work of an adult seeking calm. But what really brings them to life is the greenery growing from within. Curly parsley, chives, oregano, sprouting straight from their heads like wild pond grass on a breezy day. Each frog becomes a pot with personality. Some are plump and smug, others wide-eyed and startled. And together, they feel like a story waiting to be told. This isn't just play, it's purpose. The bottles hold just enough water to feed the herbs gently. The hydroponic setup makes it low maintenance, and the design, simple and delightful, requires only paint, scissors, and soil. It's accessible, affordable, and above all, unforgettable. They sit well on balconies, nestle perfectly along garden borders. And in classrooms, they're pure magic, tools for teaching sustainability, biology, and the joyful act of creation. The frogs don't hop, but they greet. They watch over the herbs. They remind you, with every painted wink, that the garden can be a place of lightness, of silliness, of green smiles on quiet days. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself smiling back. In the heart of a garden, or perhaps a windowsill warmed by afternoon sun, a line of little bears sits patiently, their faces calm, their arms holding bundles of mint and thyme like gifts. These bears aren't plush or furred. They're plastic bottles, trimmed and shaped and painted with affection. Their ears are cut from the curved necks of the bottles, their snouts painted in soft brown or pink, and their eyes, gentle dots, stare with a gaze that feels still and kind. Each one holds a patch of green, growing not from the soil below but from within. Mint spills from the crown of one like a wild mane. Another wears a soft wreath of basil. They sit in silence, but not in stillness, because inside them, something living grows. It's not hard to make them. A pair of scissors, a few dabs of paint, a repurposed bottle that might have been forgotten. But once complete, they feel like more than planters. They feel like companions. The joy isn't just in their shape, but in their presence. A child might name each one. An elder might smile and remember a nursery rhyme. Even alone, the bears feel like a crowd. Together, they offer warmth. And that's the quiet beauty of them. They don't ask for perfection, just participation. A willingness to turn what's thrown away into something that gives back. Because in every gentle bear face, there's an invitation, not only to grow herbs, but to grow softer, to sit a while, to nurture something small, and maybe to feel held too. They don't fly, not in the way wings usually do, but these birds, perched gently on slender poles, their plastic bodies light with color, have already lifted something, the spirit of a quiet garden, made from discarded bottles. Each bird is brought to life with a beak, a painted eye, and wings made of softened plastic, shaped to flutter ever so slightly in the wind. From their backs, green spills forth, parsley, mint, lemon balm, like feathers of a new kind, not for flight, but for flavor, for nourishment. There's a softness to their presence, in the way they balance, in the curves of their recycled forms, and how they catch the light just so. At a glance, you'd think they were ornaments. But they're planters, too, hydroponic holders of life, made to grow even in the smallest of spaces. This project was born from a desire to merge beauty with purpose. It didn't require much, just imagination, patience, and a few tools. The kind of craft that begins with a question: what if a bottle could take flight? The answer, it turns out, is rooted in the garden. They stand in silence, these birds, watching, offering shade, holding herbs on their backs like offerings. Children point, guests pause, gardeners lean in and smile, because there's poetry here, in reusing waste not just as a lesson, but as a gift, in creating something whimsical that also grows food, in crafting with care, not just for art's sake, but for the planet's too. The birds may never leave the garden, but in every breeze that stirs their wings, you'll swear they almost do. Down the line they sit, wide-eyed, black-eared, and full of leafy mischief. A whole parade of panda planters, lined up neatly like little garden sentinels, each one bursting with life on the top of its head. These aren't stuffed toys or ceramic decor. They're rescued plastic bottles, transformed by brush and care into lovable panda faces, each with its own expression, its own quiet mood. Some look surprised. Others seem to smile with a sleepy grin. The paint is sometimes uneven, sometimes touched by a child's fingers, but that's part of their charm. From their heads, green rises, romaine, mustard leaf, watercress, all growing steadily in a simple hydroponic setup. Water pool below, roots drinking slowly. No soil, no mess, just growth, held in a creature that asks only to be seen. The pandas live in rows, tucked into bamboo frames or set on benches by a sunny wall. They feel like a family. They feel like they're watching over the herbs, reminding you to water, to tend, to pause. This DIY began as a school project. It grew into something more. Neighbors came to visit. Passers-by slowed down. Someone left a note. "Your garden made my day." And maybe that's what the pandas do best. They don't just grow greens. They grow joy. They grow laughter. They grow community, one painted face at a time. In their quiet, comical way, they remind us that gardening doesn't need grandeur. It just needs heart and a little paint. Because when even a plastic bottle can become a panda, what else might you transform? If you only look closer. In a forgotten corner once filled with clutter, something curious now turns, slowly, softly, like a dream rewound. A Ferris wheel, but not the kind that lights up a skyline. This one grows lettuce. Each seat on this carousel of green is a cut plastic bottle, hung carefully from spokes, balanced with wire, and cradling soil or hydroponic medium inside. As the wheel turns by hand or breeze, each bottle shifts gently, bringing sunlight to every sprout in rotation. The idea began as a sketch, just a doodle on scrap paper. But then came the frame from old fence posts, the bolts saved from a broken swing. The bottles, of course, were easy to find, rescued from bins, washed, and made new again. And now it moves. There's a strange beauty in its motion, not fast, not mechanical, but deliberate, a rhythm of nature and human intention. It doesn't just grow food, it tells a story, one of reuse, of creativity, of believing that joy can be handmade. Children run toward it like a ride. Adults lean in, surprised at how clever it is. Birds land nearby, curious. The greens inside sway gently, nourished by a design that is both practical and poetic. And in its turning, it reminds us, gardens can have movement. They can play. They can laugh. Even when the wind catches just right. So if you ever doubted what a bottle could become, look here, it could become a wheel. A wheel that spins not for thrill, but for growth. Beneath the shade of an old tree or the edge of a herb patch, a curious little forest has quietly taken root. Not of wood and mycelium, but paint, plastic, and play. Here, bottles lie upside down, their caps painted like mushroom tops, scarlet with white speckles, pale gold with leafy veins, plum purple with swirling rings. They sit snug in the soil like fairy hats left behind. But they are more than decoration. They are planters, cleverly disguised. Each bottle has tiny side openings drilled into it, through which herbs reach toward the light. Thyme, creeping mint, oregano. The shape of the bottle helps channel water downward, keeping roots moist, and the mushroom caps shelter them from harsh sun or heavy rain. This idea came not from need, but from wonder. A child saw a mushroom in the woods, and someone else saw a bottle on its side. Together, they imagined something in between, a tiny home for plants, shaped like fantasy. The garden it creates doesn't just feed, it charms. Children tiptoe through it like it might wake up. Adults pause and smile, unsure where the DIY ends and the dream begins. It's practical, yes, but it's also poetry in disguise. It uses what we discard to mimic what we admire in nature. It's a small rebellion against blandness, a reminder that gardens can be playful, that sustainability can have stories. And at dusk, when the light softens and shadows stretch, this little mushroom grove glows with a quiet magic, not from lights or tech, but from the feeling that you made something delightful, out of nothing, out of trash, out of love for the land, in a bottle cap painted red. They drift in the air, not the ocean, silent, shimmering, and full of life. These are the jellyfish of the garden, born from clear plastic bottles, now floating beneath eaves and in sunny windows like gentle spirits of the sea. Their bodies are the domed bottoms of bottles, cut with a wavy, delicate edge. Their souls are the plants held within, air plants, string of pearls, or wispy ferns that trail downward in a tangle of living tentacles. Some are woven with old yarn or beaded strings, catching the light like captured sea foam. The project began with a simple thought. What if something could hang in the air and feel both alive and otherworldly? The answer was found in the recycling bin. With a careful cut and a bit of imagination, the rigid form of a bottle softened into the organic bell of a jellyfish. They don't sting. They soothe. They turn a simple porch into an underwater dreamscape. They teach that the most graceful forms can come from the most humble materials. There is no complicated mechanism, only the simple physics of gravity pulling plants toward the earth, creating an illusion of gentle underwater movement. These planters are a breath of coastal calm, a reminder of the deep, quiet magic of the ocean. They are proof that with a little creativity, you can make a garden that doesn't just grow, it floats.